So after an entire weekend with the PS5 Pro, everybody keeps asking me, what's it like? Is it worth getting? And it's been really difficult to capture my feeling about it. And the best way I can describe it is I feel like a kid on Christmas morning. And I'm going to do my best to explain what I mean by that in this video, because that's the feeling. But then there's the challenge. It is really difficult, I think, to kind of showcase some of these games. There's YouTube compression. Some of these games already looked really good, or maybe you just don't care. Maybe you're really happy with your base PS5, and that's totally fine. My goal here is just to tell you what my experience has been, why I feel like a kid on Christmas morning, what this means for gaming right now, as well as gaming in the future, because I do think this is going to have an impact, not just on me and the experience that I'm having and the games that I now want to play, but I also think developers are going to pay attention to this, and it is going to change the way that games come to the market. So you may be watching this and you're curious whether or not you should check out the Pro. I'm going to do my best to explain my experience, and then you can make a decision. Now, as always, when I upload a video like this, I head to a live stream after to discuss it with you, as well as other gaming news. So if you like this kind of content, hit like and subscribe. Alright, so this happened during my play session with Space Marine 2, which turned into a longer play session because I was having such a good time, but somebody wanted to know what my verdict was. They weren't asking, oh, is the game running okay? Because up to that point, we were just kind of sampling each game and just looking at the settings and the lighting, and now I was just kind of digging in and playing. And I really struggled to answer their question. And the best thing that I've come up with, I thought about this over the weekend, this is the only analogy that kind of works. It's like Christmas morning when you've opened all your presents and you don't know which thing that you're going to play with first. That's what I feel like right now. There's all of these games that I sort of set to the side and I wasn't playing, or there were performance issues that were kind of keeping me out of the game, and now they're all playable. Now they're all at a standard that I really want to experience. So I don't know which one I'm going to play with first. And even when I'm playing one of them, I'm thinking about another game. When I was playing Space Marine 2, I was like, oh, I've been enjoying Veilguard. I need to get back in there and finish that first, because I was just really wanting to just keep going with Space Marine 2. And I played Veilguard over the weekend. It looks incredible. The better lighting and their use of PSSR, it's so crisp. On the base PS5, I was having a good experience, but there was times where it would get a little stuttery, or when you would do something crazy like your ultimate, it would be hard to see and it would be almost blurry, and now it looks cleaned up. And that was sort of the issue this generation. It started out being very lopsided for me. I was like, okay, I'm probably going to main Xbox again, and I barely touched my Series X. And then the PS5 kind of became my main console. But even then, there was these consistent snags of disappointment. A game like Jedi Survivor, I was super looking forward to it. I loved the first game, and it wasn't even playable. There were screen tears, there were frame stutters. Black Myth Wukong came out. I was cheering for that game, was really looking forward to it. I had been watching it for years, and they launched a 30 FPS game on console, and they used frame gen to double the frames, which caused all kinds of issues. Final Fantasy 16, that was another one I was really surprised by and was having a great time with it, but the performance mode just was so inconsistent when you weren't in combat. And Dragon's Dogma 2 looked great, and then we heard it was a 30 FPS game. So there was always this sense, and there was this growing sense of, man, that game looks good, but I don't know if it's going to run well. We're just going to have to wait and see for it to come out. Instead of just being excited about a game, there's all this apprehension built into you looking forward to the game itself. Well, the PS5 Pro is really minimizing, or just flat out removing, that feeling. I went back to Space Marine 2 and Final Fantasy 16, and they haven't been patched. These are not PS5 Pro enhanced games, and some of the issues were either completely removed, like Space Marine 2, the frame rate felt incredibly stable, and it was really inconsistent during certain sequences when I played through it on the base PS5. But Final Fantasy 16, the issues that I had with that, they've been pretty minimized, like exploring or going back to the one, your like base or whatever. It's not stuttering like crazy. It doesn't look like a slideshow. Now, I'm hoping these games get official patches, because that would be an even more exciting thing. But that feeling of, is this going to run well? Is this going to have issues? It's really starting to subside. Somebody even did a test of Jedi Survivor 1.0, just out of the box, no patches, and it ran practically flawlessly on the Pro, because that just increase in power is helping. Now, if that feeling of, is this going to run well, is sort of going away, what's replacing it is just feeling like a kid, surrounded by great games, and I don't know where to start. That's what it's supposed to be about. I was just playing games on Friday and over the weekend, and just having a good time. Performance wasn't able to get in the way. Gaming can be about gaming again, because for the longest time, advancements just didn't feel like advancements, because they would hinder performance. We'd be really excited about something, and this would be getting added to a game, and then it just wouldn't run very well. Or the advancements just weren't that impressive, or maybe they just wouldn't show up at all. This is the first time I really feel like a tech advancement is serving me as the consumer and what I value and what I want to get out of a game, instead of feeling like some kind of a marketing gimmick. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had a great experience with my base PS5 up to this point, but there's always those lingering concerns. Every trailer was like, well, hopefully it runs well. Those concerns were always there, but now they're largely not. So if I feel like a kid again, what does that mean for my gaming experience right now in the present? Well, the first and most obvious result is that my backlog of games just grew, and that's a great problem to have, honestly. My backlog was already a pretty decent size. I've got limited game time, and I try to slowly work through all the games that I'm looking forward to, and I'm now adding games like Space Marine 2 and Dragon's Dogma 2 to the list. And you might think, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't play those games, but again, that issue with performance, that wanting things to be so smooth, it just, games like that slid off of my play session list. And somebody asked me, hey, why didn't you test drive Dragon's Dogma 2? It was improved so much. Why wouldn't you have checked that one out on your PS5 Pro? And I said, listen, I'm intentionally avoiding that one. I already feel torn between a handful of games. Like I said, I don't know which one to start with yet. So I'm like, okay, no, Dragon's Dogma 2, I just need to tuck you away. I bought it because it was on sale, but I am waiting to even boot it up because I don't want it to capture my attention. So that's the first thing that happened for my gaming right now, is that my backlog grew. But another thing is, replays might be in order in the future. Stellar Blade and Horizon Forbidden West looked honestly mind-blowing. And right now, Stellar Blade I still think is like my favorite game of the year. It's my top choice. I do think Astrobot's likely going to win Game of the Year. I don't think Stellar Blade's going to win really much of anything, but it was the game that I enjoyed the most. And I never really have played games when I tested out Stellar Blade and Horizon Forbidden West. I've not really played games at that level of fidelity along with this smooth and stable FPS. I've never gotten that experience on a console before. And beyond just replays of maybe games I've already, went through, there are games that I'm really glad that I held off on. That's another result of getting the PS5 Pro. Plague Tale Requiem is one that comes to mind. It got a 60 FPS patch a while ago, and all the reports are saying that there's no significant drops. But I booted up Returnal for a few minutes, just a game like I was waiting for some games to download. I'm very familiar with Returnal. I have close to 70 hours of playtime, and I don't know why, but it just felt smoother and faster and snappier, and others were reporting very similar findings in other games that they were checking out. Games that haven't even been patched, they just feel smoother at 60 FPS. Now, this could just be the stronger GPU helping with basic image clarity and consistent frame pacing, which would make your eye think, oh, it actually looks smoother because the image quality is not degrading as much during those fast-moving sequences especially. But it makes me want to play a game like Plague Tale Requiem even more, because I'm like, hey, that thing's probably going to look really good and really smooth, as it was already running smooth before. Or Black Ops 6. That's a campaign I want to go back to. I think I stopped right before it got good. Everybody's like, it gets so good because the opening was a little bit slower, but I want to go back to it. And I've continued to hear really great things, and I'll be able to enjoy it with that PS5 Pro enhanced label and get the better visuals. Or something like Kena Bridge of Spirits. That was one I was enjoying, and I was like, you know what? It was in the backlog. Let's check it out. Let's play it. There's too many, honestly. There's just too many games, and there's 55 games right now with the PS5 Pro enhanced label, so I better hurry up with my backlog, because the PS5 Pro is also making me think differently about the future as well. I really think that every game and developer has to consider the PS5 Pro when they're bringing their game to the market. The free marketing and coverage is just undeniable. Every game that's pushed out a PS5 Pro enhanced patch is getting YouTube videos, forum discussions, side-by-side comparison, clips and screenshots are all over social media, and developers have made it very clear they like the Pro and what it has to offer. But we also know that developers, they love to make their games look and perform as good as possible. However, there could be some negatives that come from this. There was one video that was brought to my attention. There was a YouTuber who tested Jedi Survivor, the 1.0 version of the game right off the disc, no patches, and they tested it on the base PS5 and the PS5 Pro. And the Pro was removing virtually all of the frame issues and the stutters. Now, they did not test the really bad planet that had the screen tearing and the hitching, so I would want to see that test first before I draw any conclusions, but I think that concern is valid. But I want to push back slightly, though, and say that even poorly optimized games have issues on PCs, even if it's a stronger PC. Jedi Survivor was in such terrible state on PC, it really didn't matter how strong your PC was. So the PS5 Pro being stronger than the base PS5, I just don't think that's going to brute force your way through a bad launch, or that games are going to come out and just hope that the Pro makes up the difference. Now, another concern, though, is that devs will start focusing on the Pro, the advanced ray tracing, the PSSR. The base PS5 is going to get ignored if that starts to happen. This is something folks are worried about. I really don't see this happening either. There are far too many base PS5s, and that number is going to continue to grow because that 450 is going to look really nice against the $700. Also, the way that the tech in the Pro works, it's more additive to a base game about lowering internal resolution and raising it with PSSR or adding in more ray tracing. This is not something that would fundamentally change the base game that they're developing, so your base PS5 should not be in jeopardy. Now, there are other lingering questions as well. One of the big burning questions is, how will Xbox first-party titles handle the PS5 Pro Enhanced label and the timing with the release day? It came to Diablo 4, but it's already been out. It came to Black Ops 6, but that was like a week and a half after the game had already released. Are we going to see that label there day one for a game like Doom: The Dark Ages and moving forward with games like Elder Scrolls? This could also lead to a rise in third-party console exclusives. I think a lot of developers are just going to start to prefer making their games for the PS5 because they get to tap into the Pro, and then they get all that free marketing and all that free publicity when they have the label. Regardless of if you want to buy the Pro or not, okay, it's having an impact. I expect it to continue to impact the market and game developers, but it's also impacting me. I now feel even less of a need to have a gaming PC than before. I mean, outside of indies and these AA games that I keep telling you about in my live streams, I'm going to keep doing that. Some of those you can only get on Steam. But I think some consumers are going to have to really ask the question. They may wait and say, hey, there's these select PlayStation first-party titles. They end up getting ported to PC, and I'm happy to just wait. But based on the experience I've had so far with the PS5 Pro, it's going to make it really hard to wait. But those are just my thoughts, and now I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment below, and you may get featured in the live stream that follows this video. It'll hit a card here. It will also have a link pinned below. And as always, if you like this content, please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe.